You're listening to the Ballet Piano Podcast, lifting the lid on dance accompaniment.
Hello, podcast fans, and welcome back to the Ballet Piano Podcast. I'm Chris Hobson, and as always, in the studio with me is Matt Gregory.
Hello.
Akiko Hobson.
Hello.
Hashtag David Yo of Instagram.
Hello.
And this week we've got a special guest. Sitting on my knee is my miniature schnauzer called Winston. So if you hear a little bark or a little scuttling around, that's the dog. So I'll try and keep him as quiet as I can do, but I can't promise anything. So this week we are discussing centre practice. So we've done our port de bras in the centre. We've got rid of the ballet bars. We've had an extra shot of espresso. And now we're in centre practice. So David, centre practice, it's reviewing and repeating the exercises from the bar. Is that correct?
Exactly. So without the bar, centre practice can be anything from the bar. And usually time limits what you can do. So often you will, after the port de bras, you'll do a tendu, perhaps an adage, and combine maybe a grand bat with a pirouette, and that will be your centre practice. But realistically, you should be able to do anything. And so for me, what I tend to do is I build up a class on a weekly basis from Monday to Friday. And for 4 days, we'll be at the bar. And then on the 5th day, I'll say, okay, no bar. We start from the beginning of the actual bar exercises without the bar. And we do the whole bar in the centre.
That's tough, isn't it?
That's very
That's when the faces drop on a Happy
Faces
Friday.
drop.
Happy Friday.
Yeah, TFI Friday.
That's when only half attend on Friday.
But the benefit of actually doing that, for the dancer, it's a test for them. Have they done the homework throughout the week to build up the strength to stand in the centre without the bar? Because in reality, when you're on the stage, there is no bar.
And lots of these solos and variations are very technical, very tricky.
Yes.
So it's in preparation for that, isn't it?
Exactly. The purpose of the bar, for me personally, other people have other reasons, but for me, it is just to practice the actual actions of what you're going to do in the centre, and you have the security of having the bar to hang on to. But once you get into the centre, you need to be able to stand on your own 2 feet or one supporting leg, as you were, and be able to do these movements. And so Friday is that test day for that dancer. Really, that's what we do. And it's very revealing. It's for the dancer, really. You cannot hide. There's nowhere to hide.
That's interesting. So, I mean, the next episode, we're going to discuss adagio in the centre, just because that definitely does warrant its own episode. But on the way up to adagio, we're going to have, realistically, tendus, glisses, jetés, yes. Rond de jambe, possibly.
Yes. Battement fondu.
Rond de jambe on there. Loads of things. And are not... Whilst you haven't got the bar there, it means that you can transfer and move around much more freely, but you need to be able to transfer your weight quickly and securely from one leg to the other. That's the challenge now.
So a lot of these exercises, when you set them, so, the tendu, a glisse, a jeté, or rond de jambe, are going to be set and include very similar movements to what we have at the bar, yeah?
Yes, or because there's such a huge vocabulary of movements that you can do, there may be movements that you do at the bar that you haven't covered, so that you would come into the centre, and yes, you would be doing a tendu exercise, but it might be some of those tendu movements that you haven't been able to fit in at the bar, you would do in the centre.
Okay, and you're going to have more changes of direction of the body. Are you going to be starting at looking stage left and then moving en face or to the centre and then over to stage right and things? Oh, I just heard the dog growl as soon as we said moving to the second side.
It's currently eating me.
Lucky you. So you're going to use more changes of the body, and it's starting to become more performance-based,
exactly.
Is it now as well?
Yes. So now you're starting to think about how you would project this to the audience if you were standing in the middle of the stage. And yes, you would be using different... The focus is on how you would dance and enhance the movements that you're doing by changing your direction or changing your weight.
Do you find it helpful to use a mirror? Because I know some teachers will face away from the mirror or some face towards it. Is that just a personal preference? This is just my own question. I don't know the answer.
Good question. It's a double-edged sword, really. The mirror helps us to understand what you think you look like. And it helps you to sort of like to hold on to produce the detail in the work, because you can see it. So you become your own teacher in a way. But the downside of having the mirror in front of you, you become magnetized to what you're seeing in the mirror. And because it's a 2-dimensional view, there are times when you think you look okay, and actually you don't, because you can't see 3-dimensionally, beyond the mirror. And so I tend to use the mirror to help the students understand where they are standing and placing in space, that in terms of proprioception. And then I turn away when we start to actually do the exercises from the mirror, so that they actually have to feel internally what they're doing.
Okay, that's quite interesting. What do you guys think about centre practice, Martin and Kiko? How do you approach it? Do you approach it differently from bar, or is there a different thought process that you put into what you're playing? Musically, yeah, because musically it's going to be similar to what we've had at the bar, isn't it?
It obviously depends what steps are in the exercise. But generally it's similar to what the bar exercise was in terms of music. But I know as well, in some centre practices where there'll be a simple pirouette, it might even just be a releve and passe. I'm always looking, I always just sort of stretch out between the first side and the second side. Yeah. Because then they might be gone from passe and they have to get into fifth to then do something else. And so, this is, I've sort of observed the whole way through, but this is where I'm really sort of looking at the dancers and really trying to help them out.
Yeah, just giving that extra little breath at the end of a phrase.
Exactly.
Which you're not going to be asked for, but it's going to make people's lives easier, isn't it? And that's up to you. You can then start to draw on your experience and understanding.
And also the dancers started to become more demanding towards the speed of the music or some rallentando and things like that.
At company level as well, I find centre practice always slightly under.
Yeah.
In terms of, let's say they're doing some about Mongetti à la seconde, or because they want to find those fifth positions that, we talked about in previous episodes. And so I find all the centre practice generally under, even like doing grand battement in the centre, because then it might go, into a grand pirouette in attitude or something, and they just need more space in that. But on the flip side, it can't sound sludgy. It's a fine line, isn't it, in the centre between helping them and sounding like and hindering them.
Yeah.
David.
Hello.
When you were dancing, did you love the centre or did you hate it, or did you grow to love it?
No, I loved it.
Can I answer this?
Yeah, Mark.
I imagine David would love this.
I did love it. I did. Because, starting off with, beautiful tunes in the Port de Bras we've talked about, and then the contrast between something like a tendu, like a sharp sort of like march type kind of thing, then going back into something beautifully stretched out and emotional in the adage, and then something brilliant and very sort of like show-offy in terms of pirouettes. Those kind of things, those are things that when you're performing, that's what you want to show off.
Yeah.
The whole centre, if we take the whole thing as a whole, is very up and down in terms of tempo and feel and time signatures, isn't it?
Just like the bar, really.
Yeah.
But as you said, Matt, because you don't have anything to hang on to, the dancer tends to need a little bit more time and space just to find where their balance is and to maintain that.
I love the showy off element of centre. Yeah. And, you see it. That's more so at the companies, I would imagine. Yeah. The men are trying to outdo each other on the big pirouettes.
Yeah, you get this, especially towards the end of seasons, you start to get competitions, don't you?
Yeah,
right. Especially men, they're so obsessed with pirouette, aren't they?
Yeah,
testosterone.
It's a little,
and the big jumps.
Is it a little bit like hashtag who's got the biggest car? I've got a bigger car than you, or something like that, isn't it?
Totally.
It's just showing off and
musically, that's really nice to play for.
Yeah,
it's fun
because I like to sort of accompany the individual dancer who's doing the exercise at that point, and if they're coming from the corner, we'll get onto pirouettes. But I always like trying to accompany the dancer and try and give them musically their wants and needs.
Yeah.
We get such a buzz up of this part of the class because it's starting to get more virtuosic.
Yeah, so, and the ante is up slightly, isn't it?
Yeah.
The stakes are higher.
Yeah. I always try and play opposite repertoire as well of what I've played at the bar. So let's go back to tendu at the bar. If I've played a tango for that, I'm not going to play a tango in the centre. I'm going to play, more of a jazz standard.
What if they sing a tango?
I'm probably just ignore it.
Gosh, I didn't know you were so organised.
I've become more organised because I think it's also as a personal challenge to myself is to not get stuck in a rut playing the same repertoire all the time.
Yeah.
So I'll try and mix it up. It doesn't mean just because I haven't played it sorry, I'm not playing something then, I'll maybe do it differently the next day. But just so it's the same choreography, but it's got a different musical essence behind it. So therefore that can give a different intention behind the movements. That's what I think anyway, for what it's worth.
It's worth a lot.
Thanks, love.
It's nothing to do with accompanying for ballet, but once I challenged myself as a musician from center practice. I started from C major, and every group, each exercise, I start semitone up to C. I just thought C major, C sharp major.
With a different tune in each key?
Yeah, but I just have to go up semitone each.
Wow.
It was quite challenging for myself, but I think nobody noticed. It was fun for me because it was quite challenging, but I don't think anybody noticed.
Or going around a circle of fifths and then trying to get repertoire that goes. Just games to play behind the piano as well, isn't it? Because as enjoyable as it is accompanying ballet, it sometimes can get repetitive. So you've got to give yourself little things to keep yourself going.
Yeah.
What do you do between, like, when the teacher is giving corrections? What do you do between one group and the next?
Go on, Akiko, what do you do?
Daydreaming.
Depending on what studio I'm in. There's one at the moment where if I look out the window to my right, there's some trees and it's spring and there's a squirrel that plays on the trees. So I tend to look at the squirrel a lot.
I saw one of the studio that where it used to be where the piano was located. I could look out the window and there was a flat across the street, and at certain time I see people there walking around in a quite exciting non-outfit.
So you both...
So in between exercise or group, I just suddenly sometimes see outside the window.
So you're both daydreaming?
Not always. If I know something's going to be said and it's not applicable to me in the slightest, then I might switch off.
And also, like, if you play for the company class, it's quite quick, so you don't have time.
Yeah.
But in a school situation, sometimes, especially the center practice, teachers stop and give a very long correction. That's the time you look out the window.
Because what's amazing is, as a teacher, when we go, okay, that we've talked about this, then we go, ready, and let's do the other side. Generally, you're always there.
Generally, we're there, because I know I've not been there a couple of times.
Do you, like, I have allergic to this and any and I hear, even outside the ballet class, I just react with this and then you just feel that you have to do something.
Yeah,
I was once daydreaming in a class and I heard the teacher say and I started playing and the and was part of their sentence. Brilliant. It's sort of like confessions from behind, I'm sorry.
What do you do, Matt?
Focus.
Yeah, pretty much. If I always try and think of what I'm going to play next. If they repeat the exercise, I will try not to play the same thing unless it's specific and that's what they want. And I might give each group their own tune, their own bit of music. And sometimes it's 8 counts in, 8 or 4 counts between groups if it's, and then that's your time to change up your key, change up your tune, change up the feel.
It's a great time to think about the tune, isn't it? Doing the exercise, because like you as much as you can do your own research at home, but when you're in a class, you actually were given the exercise, so you have a specific accent and specific speed, so you can actually concentrate on what else you can play, and I think you've got iPad, Chris, don't you? So we can, go into your iPad and
going through the 2-4 database or the 4-4 database.
Yeah, you can go through the database, not your brain, but also we have like app script, and then we can try to find a last minute new tune.
Wow,
that's the time that you got 2 minutes or so, and then what else can we play? No.
So sometimes what I do is for an introduction for a tondu, let's say, I'll just play 8 crotchets in the left hand, and then the tune is going to fit into. I've got to fit it into that. Yeah. So bom 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 bum 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 bum, or and then that'll be the intro between groups, and then they're not going to know what they're going to get. If I've played something different for every group, they're going to be listening. Okay, so what's next?
Yeah,
yes,
and it keeps them listening, keeps them interested. keeps them entertained, I suppose.
On the groups thing, if you're playing and the teacher's shouted there's 8 counts in between or 4 counts in between, and then you've got a group that misses their introduction.
Yeah.
Does that irk anybody else, or is it just me being a grumpy old sod?
No, that irks me. I can't stand that.
Because then I'll find if a group misses it, I'll become this stroppy little child in the corner, and I'll do the most obvious 4 counts in, and it'll involve at least 1 glissando and 1 key change. And to start.
I mean, what if you as the musician missed the 4 counts?
Well, then you.
But we can always make it like, you start a new tune, but you just pretend that you didn't, you can just improvise.
Oh, God.
No?
Sometimes you miss it.
I was told a story about somebody accompanying company class on tour. I think it was with the Matthew Bourne Company, and it was 8 counts in between whatever it was, and he's mixing it up, and then just before he's about to start playing, shouts, "Key change!" across the stage.
Please tell us who that was.
No.
It wasn't me.
It wasn't anybody who's based in London.
Chris, I have never met any ballet pianist who is as vocal as you. We are
very
normally
entertaining.
very quiet behind the piano, aren't we?
That's brilliant.
I'm not overly vocal, am I?
No, but you can't ignore you at
Yeah.
at your peril. Did they ignore you?
It's not all about me when I'm accompanying ballet.
Silence.
You've got to be the unsung hero.
Okay, can I get an Uber for Chris, please?
But on that sort of like note of thinking, okay, in the center, and you're between one group and the next, you want to keep the energy going, so you're going to ask for a 4 or 8 in or something. What does that feel like when you're going on and on and on? How
I
tiring
actually
is
like
that?
it.
In many ways, it's nice because
You're
you
not
can just
stopping and
gain
stuff.
momentum.
Okay,
You gain
right.
your strength. You
Yeah.
can pull on your aces.
Just wondered.
I mean, if you've got 40 dancers and you're doing it 2 by 2, then
Yeah,
if
it's
the
a lot.
exercise is 32 bars long and 8 in between, it's going to get tiring. But it does keep the class moving, doesn't it? And like I say, you can build it up in terms of tempo, repertoire, dynamics, and just start to get more and more fun with each one.
Yeah, you can do more variety of stuff if the music keep going.
Right.
Whereas if you stop after 32 counts and then do it again and again, it just sounds the same.
If we stop between groups, I'm more inclined to play what I previously played.
Right.
Whereas if we keep going, that's when I'm more inclined to change
Your
it
creative
up.
juices get flowing, don't they? And
Yeah.
it's nice. Well, on the introductions thing, I just remembered I was playing on a Saturday class once, and the kids were quite good, the students were quite good. So to confuse the teacher, I would stick my right hand in the air with however many counts introduction I was going to give them before the next group. So it was either 2, 3, 4, or 5. But music that made no sense. But because the students were looking at me and I was sticking 2 or 3 fingers up at them. I was going to say sticking 2 fingers up at them. That sounds very rude. I was indicating with my fingers how many beats they were going to have. They were on it, and the teacher sort of looking at them, looking at me going, "What the heck is going on here?"
The teacher didn't even know.
No, it was brilliant. That was the same teacher who set the pliés for Mazurka.
Oh,
It was that teacher, yeah. So that was good fun.
And when you're sort of like, you're saying you're changing your tunes and everything, how often do you have to refresh your repertoire? You learn a new tune or something.
Gosh.
I try and do as often as possible.
Yeah, I put things in all the time. If I hear of something,
Like,
Then I'll try
I'm
and
sure
put it
you
in.
have like little memo book on your phone, or you have like, every day you go out somewhere, you hear something and you think you can use for ballet class. You just write it down somewhere.
I do make notes of what I want to play in ballet class.
Yeah.
And then on times like that, we said in between, if I've got the iPad there, I'll think, oh, maybe this would work for that. And I'll try it out. And if it fails, I'll just improvise. But I do try and
Put
stick new stuff in as much as possible, because otherwise it's easy to get stuck in a rut, isn't
yeah.
it?
And I know I've just had time off as well. Obviously, I've been
Yeah.
away. I'm back to playing for class now. 4 weeks, 5 weeks. My old tunes are still coming back to me that I haven't played, because it's like, oh God, I do know that.
Yeah.
And it's still coming back to me.
Yeah.
Like the first class I played back from being away, I just did my go-tos because I couldn't remember anything that I could play without music or off the top of my head. But even now, like 5-6 weeks later, music is still coming back to me.
I do the same thing after a summer vacation or a winter holiday. The first week, certainly couple of weeks.
Nothing challenging,
It's
yeah.
nothing. It's not going to be anything challenging. It's going to be the greatest hits or the go-tos usually. I think that's just where you're comfortable, isn't it? But it's trying to, for me, I'm aware, and I probably don't do it as often as I should do. I want to keep increasing my go-tos or changing the go-tos. But I think that comes with, it's how you learn your repertoire then, isn't it? Do you learn it from muscle memory, from mental memory, or a mixture of both? Or do you associate things with certain exercises and certain tempos and time signatures? So as often as possible, David, hopefully.
And do you rely on like the sheet music, or do you just by ear you're playing?
I learn things at home, and then because I won't read in class.
Yeah.
Because if it's something that I'm having to sight read, I feel like I'm distracted and I'm not with the class. Yeah. But if it's something like you have the iPads, both of you, it's you're not sight reading stuff. It's just for your just to jog your memory, isn't it? Yeah. And so you can have it in front of you and not be distracted from the class. Yeah. Whereas if I'm learning something, I'll learn it at home and get it sort of 80% in the fingers, and then try it out in a student class, or I wouldn't take something to the company that I was unsure of.
No.
I sometimes rely on my ear because, I'm just lucky enough to have a perfect pitch. But I do make sure that the tune is square. It's eight bar phrases before I try out. You can't just come and just play and then, oops, it was 4 counts more.
Something I do is between exercises, I put the soft pedal on and quickly just have a little go at it. If there's something that I think, I can play that, but I'm not quite sure of it because I've had the time off, I'll just quickly put the soft pedal on, have a little play around before we then get to it.
Because in reality, of course, you can't practice in the middle of the class.
No.
It's just, I just wondered. Yeah,
no.
Interesting.
I know a pianist that did though.
Oh,
that
person was popular.
You may know him. A real jazzer and a gorgeous pianist for ballet class. But he used to play for us for tap as well at college. And while the teacher was correcting us, he'd be there just doing all these little jazz licks and jazz fills.
It's disturbing, no?
It was distracting. Yeah.
But, wow. Okay.
There we go.
Okay, so we're going to say don't practice the piano whilst corrections are being given.
Put the soft pedal on, have a little go.
Yeah, stick the middle pedal down at least. Well, on that note, I'm going to stick the middle pedal down on this episode. We're going to quiet it up a little bit. Just before we go, if you're listening on iTunes, it'd be great if you could give us a little review on there, or give us a star review, 5 if you're feeling generous, just because it helps us increase up in the findability factors and the new and noteworthy section. So if you're able to do that, that would be great. Thank you so much in advance. It's goodbye from me.
Goodbye from me.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.